Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath to all those who may be watching this video. Now, today I am making a different type of video, so to speak, than I normally would make. Now, if you just go to Google and type in Christian Missionary, you're going to see a ton of news articles about what happened last week in India on a remote island about being, John Chow was killed. Now, this is all over the net. This is all on mainstream media, whether it be NBC, CBS, the Washington Post. And so today I'm going to just give you guys a biblical perspective that many people are missing, and also my personal perspective and analysis as to what many people are not seeing and should be seeing. And it's bigger, although John Child's death is tragic, it's bigger than John Child's death. And I want to play a video, start from the beginning, by this brother here. Um, and before I even play, I just want to make this very clear that this is not and that's why I'm not even going to mention his name, because this is not an attack on this brother at all, because I've listened to a couple of his videos. I do believe he is coming from a sincere place. However, that being said, just because you are sincere does not mean that you are saying something that is true. And although John Chow is being portrayed as a victim, the real victim here is what he is saying and what the millions and millions of people who rationalize the way he rationalizes. So again, it's not even about him. It's just the ideology behind of what he is saying. And so I'm just gonna play this video. I'm gonna come back and give you guys my analysis on this video, and I have another video I need to play as well. All right.
And how they were reporting it. And one thing that I definitely seen, man, is that they were almost making a mockery of this guy. It's pretty disgusting, you know. He's hearing from God, and God told him to go to this island where he got killed. And I saw one particular news. They were like, they highlight all the parts about where he had wrote in his journal about like an arrow hitting the Bible, and how he felt that the Lord had protected him from the Navy and the Coast Guard seeing him. Like they really tried to make him sound, you know, crazy or that like he lost his mind. And I know I've been in the news as well, in the mainstream news before, and they did the same thing to me. And it's just so disgusting. And then there's even some people who claim to be Christians. And what bothers me with that, right, is people in their arrogance. They want to flex on other people, right? And it's like, you know, in reality, they're lifting this little weight right here, and they can talk about this guy and, you know, critique him. But in reality, you know, he was lifting a much heavier weight. He was doing a lot more for the Lord. He was willing to risk a lot more. In the meantime, while, you know, the person over here just sitting here posting stuff on social media, critiquing, and that's how believers can be. They'll sit there and critique a brother who's carrying a cross that's this heavy, right? And they can't even manage to lift this little weight that they have faithfully. I mean, it's completely disgusting, man, how they're treating this missionary. But it also should be a challenge, you know, to all believers. Like, man, am I doing enough for the kingdom? The first thing that I ask myself when I see that kind of stuff is like, Lord, am I really doing enough? You know, we're so comfortable in America. And, you know, I also look at the apostles in the Bible, how they were willing to lay their life down. Am I really getting the work in? Am I really taking up my cross? Am I, you know, some people go their whole life and they never answer the will of God for their life. They spend their whole life chasing a paycheck. They spend their whole life chasing, you know, paying bills. They spend their whole life looking for relationships, and they never stop and they say, Lord, protect me. And Lord, provide for me, but never, Lord, position me. And that's what I look at with that brother. How many people are saying, send me, I'll go. Whatever you want, whatever it costs me, whatever I got to lay down. Not many. And then, of course, we have the news just trying to make him look crazy, man. Pray for his family. Pray for the people on that island. You know, he was shot up with arrows, apparently, and they buried him. And I just pray for all the missionaries out there doing the work of the Lord. Love you guys, and just know that being a missionary, right? It's not necessarily, everybody wants to travel and go to Africa to be a missionary. It's a hard thing. You know, there's plenty of souls that are lost in your neighborhood, at your school, at your job here in America. Everybody wants the, you know,
All right, I'm just gonna pause right there, and it's really hard to listen to because again, whether he knows it or not, he is truly blinded by the truth, and the truth is that there's an elephant in the room that he cannot see, and it's right in his face. Now, let me point out the elephant in the room. One is that these people are indigenous to this land. Two, they have been there from most estimates about 60,000 years. Some say 55,000. I've seen some online that says 30,000, but between 30 to 60,000 years. Now, I want to expound upon that and tell you guys what that means. If I had the ability to speak their language, the first thing I would ask them is what part of Africa they came from. And you know what they would say? What is Africa? What are you talking about? You know why? Because they left Africa before Africa was called Africa, if that makes sense. Meaning that they left before the Europeans colonialized and conquered Africa and then called it Africa, because originally the name of that continent was not called Africa, nor the countries in Africa, if that makes sense. So the original name for Egypt, as you know, that was Kemet, or Ethiopia, that was Kush, so on and so on, meaning that they have so much history that to call them an African tribe in a historical sense would be incorrect. So the question is not should we go there to convert them? The question should be what could we learn from these people? Because obviously they have a story unique from any other people on this planet, particularly what you would say black people, because they're the only people that have not been conquered and colonialized on this planet. Not only that, they still have their native language, they still have their native culture, and it has been uninterrupted for the past 60,000 years. Not only that, today we have these modern DNA kits, Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and so on and so on. And when most people take the DNA, it will point out that they have 1% this or 2% that, or they got 5% Nigerian or 20% Irish or whatever. These people have a pure pedigree. That is 100%. Why? Because they have been voluntarily isolated from the rest of the world. Now, I want to go back to the first page. I'm going to show you guys that in a second after I play this other video. So I want to put this in perspective again, if that did not sink in, that they're indigenous to that island. Not only that, most scholars or most people who deal with archaeology or that deals with DNA or anthropology would tell you that life began, or the first man and woman, or started in what we call East Africa. I'm just going to use the term Africa, right? Somewhere on the East African side by the Nile, or somewhere around there, that region. And then from there, man populated and moved off and explored the world. These people right here you see on the screen were the one of, or if not the first people to discover that region you call Asia. So if you're going there to convert them, what does that say about you? That you don't even have enough respect to say, hold on, is there something we can learn from you? Because you were able to do something that 99.9% of the population has not. Think about all the empires that came and gone. There's no empire right now on this earth that has lasted. They have come, They have gone, whether the Babylonians, the Roman, name any empire that has lasted from the beginning of time. These people's civilization have lasted from the beginning till now. They have survived tsunamis, they have survived hurricanes, imagine probably droughts, different things, and they're still alive. I'm gonna play another video real quick for you guys. Play by here. Now this video right here is the heart, the personification of wickedness. Because the other guy said, I believe what he was saying out of ignorance. But this video right here, I'm gonna tell you what wickedness is, and you're gonna listen to it. Now listen to it. Now he's I guess he'll consider himself a Christian evangelical, and I'm not gonna say his name again. But just listen to this.
Like a tourist or adventure seeker to you. Now, whether if you believe like John believed that God called him to help these people and help give them hope in a future,
All right, I'm gonna pause right there. Whether you believe what God believed, that God called him to give these people hope in the future. Hope. Did these people say they needed hope? He's assuming that they need hope. He's not asking. He has not had a conversation. He has not been able to analyze their culture. He has not been able to sit down and have a conversation with them. But he assumes that these people need hope. Listen to this.
Must at least acknowledge this was not for some selfish thrill, but rather attempt to give hope to a people who have been cut off and forgotten by the world.
Okay. Give hope to a people who has been forgotten and cut off by the outside world. Let me explain this to you. Basically, what he's saying in a nutshell, that these people need help. They need us to liberate them from their society. They have been cut off, marginalized in a sense by us ignoring them for all these years. And hey, this guy was there to set you guys free in a sense. That's what he's saying. Now think about this. If whoever's listening to this, hypothetically was lost on an island for a week by yourself or with your family, and someone came, or you saw a human being come walking down the woods or whatever, the wilderness where you are you going to kill them, or are you going to go to them for help if you are in dire need of help or hope? Exactly. You're going to go to them to help me. You may not even be able to speak the language of the person who's coming to help you, but your reaction, you're pleading, you're crying, it's obvious that you're trying to come off this island. However, if you kill them, what would that say? Obviously, you're not in need for help. Obviously, you're trying to protect something. Obviously, you're trying to preserve something. Obviously, what he's saying cannot be true. Because when you are in true help or desperate need, you don't kill whoever's coming to help you, in a sense. When I mean desperate need, I'm talking life or death situations. If you're stranded on an island and you're on a remote place and you see a human being, you're not going to kill to help. You're going to plead and ask for help. 99.9% of people who are sane, who don't have a mental condition, will do that. Let's play some more.
Brings us back to the main point. Why this slant? And what do you think the headlines would read if a Muslim man attempted to reach this island to spread Allah? Or even a feminist who traveled to the island to empower the local women with education and even opportunities off the island? What do you think would happen? What do you think the slant would be in the media? Would they be called adventure seeker or tourist? Or would we have to declare a national holiday in a moment of silence? I can only imagine. But I think at the very least, John Cho should be remembered with admiration. If only we all had the same conviction to lay our lives down for those in need.
Okay, listen to that. Who told this man they were in need? He assumes that they're in need only because he feels that he is superior to them. That is the core issue at hand. Because if someone is isolated voluntarily, Not involuntarily. This is not the Gilligan Island. They just had a ship and they were offshore and they've been trying. They are voluntarily isolated. What makes you think they need help? Every time someone comes to help them, they kill them. Does that sound like someone who needs help? No, it doesn't. The person who truly needs help is this individual to think or have the audacity to look down upon a people who has survived with no vaccines, no hospitals, no modern medication, no technology, none of the Western civilization uh, things that we have, cars and planes. They have survived for all these years just fine. But now all of a sudden they need help. They need to be free. And that's why in the beginning I came across a picture I want to show you guys. Here's a picture of colonization in Africa. Do these people look like they're at peace? Now, obviously, this is when they were conquered. This is before, this is after they've been conquered. Okay? Now, here's a video of them. This is the reason why they're shooting at you, because they want to protect from being conquered. And if you feel that they don't have a right to protect their land or their sovereignty or their culture, you are wicked. And I'm going to go to Genesis chapter 3, and I'm going to show you why you're wicked. And this has nothing to do with God. This is perpetuating an ideology of superiority and inferiority. That's all it is. And it is done in disguise of religion, but it has nothing to do with God, because God does not operate in that fashion. Let me pull up a couple other photos. Look at this. This is the effects of colonialism, which is basically how the continent of Africa is under and has been under, and the Caribbean. And so if they want to protect their land or their culture, why don't they have the right to? Now, let's tie it in with the biblical story, the better sheet, Genesis chapter 3. I'm just going to read it in English. I'm not going to go into the Hebrew at all. But I'm just going to read 1 through 5. And I'm going to show you how this story right here relates to the story of Adam and Eve. It says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God has made. And he said unto the woman, hath God said, ye shall not eat of any tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God knoweth the day you eat thereof, that eyes shall be open, you shall be as God, knowing good and evil. So the one thing we do know, prior to them eating of the fruit, they were naked. Just like these people here. They were naked. So they were innocent in a sense. The serpent came there with one motive and one objective, to get them to feel like they are inferior, in the sense of God is robbing them from something that they should know. Look at how you're living. You could be as wise as God. God does not want you to know this. God wants you to be like this. That was the serpent's perspective. Or let me say not perspective. That was the serpent's intention. If Eve had their perspective, that anybody come around where God say anything, we're going to kill you. We're not even going to listen to what you got to say. And this is their people perspective. Meaning that obviously these people here are protecting something that we don't know. Obviously, for them to survive all these years, are you telling me that there's not a divine hand on their lives? Does not the sun shine on their island every morning? Does not the crops grow on their island for them to survive? Does not the fish grows in that region for them to get fish? So God is still providing for them. So who are we to say now, hey guys, let me tell you what this. Let me tell you this. Look what you've been missing. Look what you've been missing out on jail systems. We got to go to work, pay taxes every, get work 9 to 5, and we got to pay taxes. So if we get paid $500, 200 of it goes out to taxes. We got we got all these diseases, GMO in the food, police brutality, uh, government corruption. I mean, yeah, that's what we want to convert them to essentially. We want you guys to come out of your peace, to come out of your way of living for 60,000 years, to come to our way of living, because guess what? Our way of living is superior. We got credit card debt. People are committing suicide. In order to live the way these people have been living, there have to be a peace. There has to be harmony within themselves. And they have to be connected with God in order for that to happen for all these years. Intentionally. Again, there's a difference if these people got there by accident, in the sense of since they arrived, they've been trying to leave there, and that's totally different. And let me bring up one more thing. I'm gonna close like this by saying this, because I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they brought up the fact of Nivea, with Jonah and Nivea, when God sent Jonah, or sometimes he would send the prophets to warn the people. This is completely different. These people were sinning, they were doing terrible things. But my question is, what are these people doing that you know? Because nobody knows. It's against the law to go to the island. There's no surveillance on them. What are they doing that is wicked that you can bring a charge to them and say they need to repent? The only thing that they are doing is, let me go back to this guy right here, is that these people don't believe what I believe. That's the only thing they're doing wrong. You cannot go to them and say, hey man, you know what? You guys are stealing people's land. You're raping women. You're killing babies. They cannot make that argument against that. And if you want to make the argument of someone, because here's the arrow, someone coming into your land and your environment, and you don't have a right to defend yourself, and that is a bad thing, then again, you are wicked. Because this is the textbook definition of what illegal immigration is. That's their land. I believe they have since they've been there the longest and the first to get there, they have the true right to say who comes on their land and who they will allow to accept. And the fact that you don't respect that says a lot more about you than them. Everybody has a right to defend their family and their territory. And if they're not bothering nobody, something that this picture cannot say. These people came there, and look at the condition that they're in now, in Africa is in today. And it's all done under the armor of God and Christianity. But I can assure you, God has nothing to do with this in a sense of that Christian missionary perspective. That is something of doing of their own, because God is liberation and freedom. True liberation and freedom is not bondage, it's the opposite. And these people here are in bondage. Okay? So that is my take on it. Okay? If Eve and Adam had the fortitude of these people, they would never have been in the condition. And after we know the story, after they were naked, after they sin and did not listen to the Most High, they realized that they were naked. These people over there don't know that they're naked. Leave them alone, Christian missionaries. The arrogance of you people is wicked. If And let me just say, I know I said I'm gonna close, but let me close on this. Like I told somebody, there was no man around when the earth was created. There was no man around when the sun was created. There was no man around. When I mean man, I'm talking about a human being. That's what I mean. There was no man around, a human being around when the sun was created or the universe was created. The Most High created it. So before we got on this planet, there were all other things in place. And we see that in Genesis 1. Everything was in place, and then God put man on this planet once he made provision for man to sustain life. So what I'm saying to you is that most of the Christian perspective is that God needs you. And without you, God's will cannot be done. God don't need nobody. God do whatever he want to do and nobody can oppose it. That's what you got to understand. God may use somebody, but he don't need nobody. And that's what people don't understand, is that if God want to reach these people, trust and believe God will reach these people. The question should not be that. The question is this: how do we know they don't even know God already? And maybe we don't know God. Shalom.